This was the cover for the Raw edition of Jack Survives, the first one. And it's done in black and white so that someone else could do a color separation, because this is before it was before digital, 1984, and I never did the color separation. I would get the Xerox made and then paint that the color I wanted, and then someone at Raw would do the separation. I didn't want to learn how to do separations even, So that's that. This was a cover for a magazine called Wigwag, and again, it was the same procedure of doing the black and white and not doing the color separation, and then getting a Xerox, which amounted to being a high contrast, and then painting that the colors I wanted. The problem here was that the art director changed the colors that I had originally done, and it's like changing Superman's costume. Like he had blue pants on and a white shirt on instead of brown pants and a blue shirt. So from that point on, I painted them without the black and white version, which was good for me. I remember reading this in the late 70s that a Supermarine Spitfire had sold for $240,000. And I thought that was pretty amazing. And I thought that was pretty expensive too, but I can imagine what it would sell for today. My favorite, one of my favorites at least, I think my favorite, the World War II airplane, British Supermarine Spitfire from the Battle of Britain. It was a beautiful plane. So this is kind of surreal that Jack would wake up with his hat in his lap. This is the earliest black ballpoint pen single image drawing that I'd done for Jack. I don't know if it was even before I did the black and white ink versions. I'm not sure when I did it, but clearly it was earlier. And the interesting thing about ballpoint pen is that you can draw over things, and there's a lot of ghosts in there. And later on I learned that you could scrape it with a razor blade and get rid of things, but at that point I hadn't done that, or didn't realize that. And this is Jack. Jack had a daughter and a wife, and the daughter grew up to be Sally, another character. I had moved to the country for a while. I got this grant, so I rented a house in the country. I mean, I lived in the city as well, but I went after classes were done for a few days. I went up to the country, so I was getting a newspaper, which I didn't get here in the city. And that's why Jack is anticipating the arrival of the newspaper. In this newspaper, I discovered Nancy, a rediscovered Nancy from my childhood, Nancy and Sluggo. That kind of fueled the fires of cartoonism for me, or paintoonism eventually. This is an image if you saw the earlier versions, I did in black and white. and now it's ballpoint. Here, I think I've learned to use the razor blade, as I think I did in the one before too. There's a way to get rid of the ballpoint pen when it got too black and too unruly. During the days of percolators boiling over, if you didn't pay attention, you'd watch it turn down the flame when it got boiling up in there. And Jack is caught in this awkward moment of changing a light bulb and losing sight of his percolator percolating. So at that crucial moment, it overflows. This is seen from the noir view. The next moment, the consequences of the attempt at multitasking, which is not an easy thing for males to do. There's something very different about the ballpoint pen versus the pen and ink look, because there's the ability to make gray, light gray, dark gray, black. By putting more pressure on, you got blacker, and less pressure, you got light gray. And that's something between a pen and a pencil. Down in my cellar when I was a kid, there were remnants of a coal bin. So the house was built in 1900. Obviously had the ability to receive coal, but it had been transferred over to gas. So it had a furnace, and I mean a gas furnace, not a coal furnace. So I thought it'd be particularly appropriate for Jack to just watch the coal come in. Not that I ever saw that happening. I saw it in neighbors. Certain neighbors had coal still, so you'd see the coal trucks pull up and the chute go in the house, and then the noise of the coal filling up the bin. You'd hear that, so it wasn't from another time as much. But this is completely invented occupation for Jack to spend time watching other people work. Something I think guys relate to, looking at construction sites and things like that. So Jack is watching the coal accumulate. Also like vignetting the edges too. I mean, it kind of became non-specific edges, or as opposed to the panel distinctions made in the comics, the black and the ink. Here's where the razor blade really went to town. It took out a rug in the foreground and changed the balloon words to some extent. This was something my father had to do in a house with one bathroom and 6 people living. He wanted to go in and read the newspaper while he used the toilet. And so my sister reminded me of this, that he would say that, is everybody through in the bathroom? Because it was almost uninhabitable afterwards. When he was through with the bathroom, that door had to stay open for a while. It's one of my favorite Jack drawings. I mean, it's completely symbolic. There's nothing based on any fact, but it sort of sums up Jack's philosophy, uh, drinking coffee, stairs. I have this stair thing because I live on the top floor. I walk up, so I go downstairs to enter the real world from my world, and I go upstairs to enter my world from the real world. So stairs are significant, and they're a great visual device too because it chops up the space so nicely. And I did it in color, so I wanted you to see the contrast between the two. And these were all done in the early '80s for the original Raw version of Jack Survives, or Raw, the anthology as well. So I wanted to find a color counterpart. These never got printed in the original Raw, but in the new version, like a couple of years ago, they did. And I wanted to find the color counterpart of the bold blacks and the bright colors be equivalent to the bold blacks. It's almost okay, but not quite. A bit later, I found the solution.